Good evening. Now, the video that we are going to work on today is going to be on poetry appreciation. Now, the reason why I've decided to work on poetry appreciation because it happens to be one of those problem areas where advanced level literature students have found extremely very challenging to handle. So I thought that we could do some a little work on that. So in this video, I'm going to provide you with some very important tips on how to handle questions in poetry appreciation, that is specifically section D in paper 3. Now, we'll just go straight to it. You don't have to go read up all the volumes. I mean, that is not necessary. It's uncalled for. There are some very basic tips that you just have to go in there and use, and you find yourself coming out of that hall with all your marks in your pockets. That's if you will follow these tips to the latter. Now, number one, the first question says, give out the meaning or write down the meaning of a poem in 150 words. Now that one is simple. What is the examiner expecting from you? Now the examiner expects two things from you. First, the examiner expects you to provide the literal meaning of the poem. That's to say the storyline. What happens in the poem. The second thing you have to do is to be able to bring out the metaphorical meaning and unite both meanings in your write-up, which means that the write-up should compose of the literal meaning as well as the metaphorical meaning. So you put the two of them and give the examiner in 150 words, and all the 2 marks is yours. Now the second question that we all know is always going to be there is that the examiner is going to provide you with 2 words or 2 expressions or 2 phrases from the poem, and will demand of you to provide their meanings. Now the tip for that one is simple. How then do you handle it? We always talk about meaning in context. Meaning in context simply means that you read the poem and then you go to the stanza where you find that expression or that word. You read that area around it, and then you'll be able to know the meaning of that expression or that word. We call that meaning in context, which means that all you need to do is to read the line above the one that contains expression, and then you read the line where the expression has been used, and the line below it. As you're running your eyes through it, you carry yourself through the poem in terms of its meaning, and then you run through that expression, and then the meaning will come up your mind and you write it out in your own words. That is what we call meaning in context, and the marks is yours. Now, third question. The examiner, of course, is going to challenge you with a question on figurative devices, where the examiner asks you to identify 2 figurative devices and show how they have been effectively used. Now, what is our secret for this? It's simple. Number 1, identify the device. You state the device, you write it down. 2, quote the line where that device has been used. 3, say its effectiveness. Now, what's the effectiveness of a literary device? It's simple. The effectiveness of a literary device is just a simple meaning that the author wants to pass across using that device. He's not going to write about devices to tell you how much he knows them. He uses them to say something. What's he trying to say with that device? Of course, that is its effectiveness. That is all you need to state out there. So again, you state the device, you quote the line where that device has been used, and then you show its effectiveness and get all the marks. The marks is all yours. Straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush. Just go straight to it. Now the third item, the fourth item that we are going to discuss there is a little tricky, where the examiner might play with terminologies like form, structure, mood, and diction. Now let's take it all over again. Form. What is a form? The form of a poem has to do with the physical appearance of the poem. Now you're going to be asking yourself questions like, how many stanzas makes up the poem? How many lines makes up each of the stanzas? Are they long? Are the lines long or are they short? Now all of that has to do with the physical appearance of the poem on the page. By doing so, you are talking about the form, or you're commenting on the form of the poem. Number 2, structure. Now when we talk of structure, what do we mean? Structure in terms of poetry has to do with how the author has developed the ideas. What ideas are there in stanza 1? What ideas have been developed in stanza 2? What ideas in stanza 3? And so how the author or the poet has presented their ideas in the poem is what you call the structure of the poem. Take note, structure and form are 2 different things when it comes to poetry appreciation. Now we then move over to diction. Now diction simply means words. The poet's choice of words is the addiction. And the poet's choice of words will always be guided by the message you want to bring to their audiences. If they want to castigate or criticize something, chances are they'll use words with negative meanings, or words that are insultive to tell us that they're insulting something or criticizing something. If they are out to celebrate or encourage something, they'll always use words which shows you that they are positive in their outlook for that thing. So you realize that they are careful use of words. It could be shades of adjective nouns. It could be common words around you. All of that pertains to the addiction. So you realize that the addiction is carefully chosen, bearing in mind what message you want to pass across to their audiences. So that's just all what the examiner intends to hear from you, and marks is all yours. Now the last item we have to discuss there is the tone and the mood. Now the mood has to do with the atmosphere that shrouds the poem. Is it one of death? Is it one that speaks of sorrow? Or is it one that speaks of happiness? And then tone. Tone again has to do with the author's attitude towards their subject matter. Subject matter is what they are discussing, and their attitude towards what they are discussing, of course, captured through their choices of words. And that is it for poetry appreciation. Now, one more thing that you might also want to pay attention to as an advanced level student is creative art. When I say creative art, I'm talking about questions where the examiner will challenge you to write probably a stanza of a given number of lines. They could ask you to go with 4 lines, 5 lines, or 6 lines, as the case may be, discussing a particular aspect of the poem. The examiner might also ask you to draw inspiration from the poem and then go out there and give a speech or a talk to a group of friends or your classmates. So when you come across a question like that, just bear in mind that all you need to know is to go back to the poem, look at its central themes, and then take your cue from there to write out your own or your own poem. And they ask you to write a 5-line stanza. Please follow instructions, stay with the stanza. Don't write in paragraphs, rather in stanzas. Just 5 lines, and the marks is yours. And so that is that for poetry appreciation. If you've learned anything from this short video, please you hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it if you can hit the subscribe button. That's just all you need to do to show appreciation. Just hit the subscribe button, then you like and share with your friends. We'll keep giving tips on what students should expect. So in our next video, we are going to look at prose appreciation, and then look at those tips that you might also find very handy on how to handle questions. So see you there.